Moving on to the third case study, had been happy to discuss around resource scarcity, circular economy, end of life of products. I know that these are topics that are very important to many corporates nowadays. As you know, the questions how to cope with supply chain disturbances, how to deal with product end of life, what to do with recyclability. These are issues that we do address systematically in our daily work at Andefi with portfolio companies for our clients. So for the next case study, I don't know if they already arrived in the room, but I'm really pleased to welcome Josep and Emeric on stage to discuss together resource efficiency and circular economy.
It is a pleasure to be here, and thank you for attending this presentation. Our aim today is to give you a glance on how at Quadia we want to contribute to a true economic paradigm change and reducing extraction, and why we do things that entrepreneurs and investors they can act in this way, and they really have to bring economically viable new business model. By way of introduction, I would say that Quadia is a pioneer in impact investing, founded in 2010 in Geneva. We have invested around 250 million now, mainly in Europe, through 40 companies. And we have as a focus transformative companies with innovative business model and really able to transform, to change their value chain. Our intention is based on the principle of the regenerative economy to create positive impact, while of course respecting the social and environmental boundaries. We are really looking for positive impact instead of thinking that reducing negative impact is enough. So our impact methodology is based on our theory of change. And it is with the development of transversal and dynamic methodology. It's not like a label, it's really how you can bring and decide with the management a strategic roadmap with strong impact and to make some progress on this roadmap. We could as a summary, explain that it's really coming from a linear economy to a circular economy, but it's much more. It's the purpose is to integrate this in a regenerative economy. So from a linear economy, what you can see here is the basic extract, produce, and waste, which is not anymore sustainable. You can see with growing population, it's possible to have less raw materials with product, but you have more and more product as the population is growing. So now we are talking about 11 billion of tons of resources consumed on the last 6 years. I do think you all heard about the overshooting day, 1.5 planet, of course, worldwide, but depending on countries, could be 3 or 5. So it's not at all regenerative. It's not at all sustainable. It's not sustainable development. And we could say that our GDP is based on massive extraction. More than 90% finally is based on this annual extraction. And I'm really worried about this graphic and how it is exponential with larger population. So it brings many issues we cannot resolve for now. It's clear that we have oil production. It's really clear that next big issue will be about the water and some critical metals that we don't have anymore the supply. We will not have anymore the supply, and recycling is not the only solution. Has sometimes, and we do hope that recycling, you recycle after 40 years and not just every year. So it makes some issues, and of course on the business side, supply disruption and higher prices. We all know that. And it was a large debate and a lot of new funds on this question today at this EPEM. The climate change is a big issue, but not only biodiversity loss and waste pollution. So on our side, it's really thinking that we have to build new business model and not thinking that circularity or new business model is like having a label. It's not degrowth, it's not sustainable development, it's not just carbon neutral, it's not about cost. According to us, it's really about investment, strategy, and how you can build a better future based on efficient value chain. It's not about having the shareholders align with your strategy. It's really about thinking that there is no alternative. I would quote Margaret Thatcher, for those who remember this, the famous Tina, there is no alternative and I want my planet back.
I'll take it over from here to explain you a little bit on what's our view on what is truly a circular economy. Most of you are probably very familiar to the traditional approach to what is a circular economy, and I also I'm sure that most of you have also understood its limits. So from the traditional model of making, using, and recycling, I think we're in another step, and we try to look for business models which are more in the basis of the 7R model, what is called the 7R, which is incorporates basically solutions to the two big limitations of the circular economy, as was presented in the previous slide. So first, when you are in the conception of a product, if you don't change it, you don't reduce the amount of raw material being put into it. So you can recycle, but you won't change the equation at the beginning of the value chain. And secondly, obviously, recycling has limitations from a practical perspective and big constraints from a unit economic perspective. So this model, which is obviously very large and cannot be always applied in all the value chains, consists in the conception of a product, a given product, reducing the use of it, so the user case for any consumer, repairing without getting into the equation new raw materials, reusing it after this reparation, and when is it necessary, refurbishing, which means actually putting into it new raw materials so you can bring alive again the product in question. Then, of course, recycling makes part of this equation, and when is and there's obviously cases in which still the very consolidated models of recycling work extremely well. Actually, recycling and recovering is not the same thing. You can recycle, but the most important thing is to recover at the end of the chain to be able to use it again in new production. We want to give you a glance of 4 companies in our portfolio, which can be placed in this 7R model. The first one is Loop. It's a US-based company. They basically changed the conception of packaging to be able for consumers of mass retailers to reuse their single-use, what would be otherwise a single-use product. So that's on the retail and mostly on food and other consumables. The second one is a French company called Patatam, now called Rediv, which is active in the textile industry, in the clothing. They what they do is it's a logistics company basically, which enables other retailers to buy secondhand clothes and resell them. And they also have a big work on what happens if they cannot be resold, of course. The third company is in the smartphone refurbishing sector, which is Sophie Group in France. There's a lot of refurbished smartphone companies around there, but their uniqueness is that they act only in France, from the actual sourcing of the phones to the full refurbishment process, and they obviously create a high value added product which they can resell at a good margin. And finally, it's also a company in France called SOS Accessoires, and active in the home appliances sector. And what they do is basically avoid you changing your home appliance at home only because a small piece is broken. And they have a big portfolio of spare parts, which you can typically also repair by yourself or with the help of someone and the help of a tutorial. So those four are easy examples of how businesses can be profitable and operate on the basis of this 7R model, which we have been supporting since some time. And I think I'll pass it back to.
So I took a strong position explaining that, according to me, sustainable growth or sustainable development doesn't really exist, as we are still in a massive extraction of new raw materials. And we have a kind of dream, or what we want to demonstrate. It's we can have a regenerative economy, which is how you are able to give back more than what you take. This regenerative economy doesn't exist. We launched in 2019 our first fund, Regenero Impact Fund 1, and we are about to launch the next one next quarter. I would say regenerative economy doesn't exist. We have to create it, but regenerative agriculture exists. So we have a theory of change based on this, what we learn and what you can see in ecosystem, and how it is possible to transform business model to ecosystem. That's the regenerative economy we would like to create. And the theory of change is just explaining as an ecosystem is sustainable by nature, what can you introduce to a business model to make an ecosystem? It's quite simple. It's first how you can be more local, how you can be more collaborative, how you can be, of course, circular. Circular is just a part of this regenerative economy, how you can be functional, and how nature, or how you can be inspired by the biodiversity. And we, as a humankind, we were always inspired by the nature, first just at looking what is around us and trying through product or tools, trying to copy this. Now more and more about biosourced materials. And the other way is just to think and work and exchange as an ecosystem. So for this, to build this regenerative economy, we have two priorities, consuming and producing, how to change consumer behaviors. But it's, I would say today, a strong appetite to explain that we can consume better with less. And of course, on energy, how we can use energy and being more efficient in energy use. So we are investing in 3 key sectors: clean energy, sustainable food, and always with a circular approach. And as I explained, with an impact management, from impact measurement to impact management, to decide with the company to make our impact KPIs strategic and not just like basic reporting. And to be engaged on this, our carry has a private equity fund is linked to the impact targets and objective. So how we work, how we can make it possible. I will share with you Sophie Group, an example explained by Josep, reconditioning mobile phones. So each year on these 4 objectives, we have around 3 to 5 KPIs by objective. We go for a scoring in percentage. The purpose is not to give a score to invest or not to invest, but just to explain with the company at which level of impact potential they are and how they can make some progress. And making this progress is really, as investors, our additionality. Working with the company to make this progress is our additionality. Our intentionality, of course, is working in the regenerative economy principles. So here with Sophie Group, you can see that at investment on our 4 objectives, what was initial scoring, how it moved, and how in 3 years we went through 37% to 69% beyond our impact target at the beginning. So how does it work? Just 2 examples on the 4 objectives. 2 objectives very close to what is circular economy. So we will look at the company, we will look at the value chain of the company, how the company is organized, how the company work, and we will check, for example, on the waste, how they are using their waste, on the input, what they are buying as input as well, and how it becomes output, and how they can treat this waste. And about waste treatment, it's not just about recycling or putting the right waste in the right garbage. It's really about how, with other companies, how with your value chain, you can really create a way to first reduce, then to reuse or retransform this waste before thinking the recycling. Of course, Josep explained this. It's about reduction. It's about eco-conception. How, from the beginning, you will think that the product cannot be a waste, and how you can integrate this product. On this methodology, we have the same KPIs, the same methodology for all the companies. And our work is not to ask them for a KPI. It's to choose the data that we will use in the KPI to make it strategic and to make the company desiring having this data reduce or progress on this data for going more to the regenerative economy. Another example, it's really the life cycle management, of course, and also on renewable energy, how we can put and push the company to renewable energy. And here, the scoring from 0 to 1 with 4 steps. We are giving some threshold to give 0.25 or 0.50 as a score on each KPI. And we are working with the company to improve this threshold and having a larger impact scoring. As a conclusion, because perhaps I do hope you have some question, it will be a very short conclusion, and I think it's kind of summary of what could be impact investing. So I will quote an American president. I like this quote. Of course, it's John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and I will tell you: ask not what you can do with your what your investment can do for you, but ask what you can make possible with your investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the topics? Not so far. Okay, well. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you very much for this insightful discussions. So we're about to make a break for lunch, but please do come back this afternoon as we will discuss again many topics related to sustainability, food chain, good governance, education, diversity, full program ahead of us. So we'd be happy to find you back here at 2 p.m. for new conferences.